It's too early to calm down here, because the potential of Russia's Black Sea fleet and their missile potential have not disappeared. What is shocking is that Soviet Russia did not establish maritime borders with other states. We need to consolidate Ukrainian society's understanding that Crimea is a key goal for ensuring maritime security.
Hello and welcome to Ukraine in Flames, a special project by Ukraine Media Center and NGO Euro-Atlantic Course. And I'm your host, Myroslava Yarenkiv. The safety of shipping in the Black Sea after Russia's withdrawal from the grain agreement is a key issue not only for the economic security of Ukraine, but also for the global food market. The authorities of Ukraine announced the creation of new sea corridors and established an insurance fund for merchant vessels. The expert community offers various options for ensuring the safety of vessels in the Black Sea in light of Russian aggression and hostilities. In today's episode, we're going to talk about maritime security in the conditions of the full-scale war, and how Ukraine, the EU, and NATO should protect themselves from Russian aggression in the Black Sea. If you want to learn more about this subject, please continue watching this video and subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss our videos in the future. As a result of innovative approach to naval warfare implemented by Ukraine, Sevastopol is no longer the main base of the Black Sea Fleet. The most valuable ships have been transferred to Novorossiysk, and even now they have hidden 3 missile corvettes from Ukrainian drones. The Ukrainian export corridor works effectively, and our foreign allies are surprised because none of them could have imagined that it is possible to ensure freedom of navigation in the western sector of the Black Sea for a country that does not have a full-fledged fleet. Because of this, a rather dangerous relaxation has arisen in the public consciousness. Meanwhile, it's too early to relax because the potential of the Black Sea Fleet and their missile capabilities have not diminished. Project manager at the Institute of Black Sea Strategic Studies, Andriy Klymenko, will elaborate more on that.
It's too early to calm down here, because the potential of Russia's Black Sea fleet and their missile potential have not disappeared. So the situation is like this. I always say, including to foreign journalists, first of all, when they ask how it happened, I tell them such figures, which are not very well known in our country. We're used to them. But in 2023, according to information from open sources, the defense forces of Ukraine carried out at least 200 attacks with missiles, sea and air drones on the occupied territory of the Autonomous Republic of Crimea and ships of the Black Sea Fleet, both in the base and at sea. Moreover, about 60% of the attacks targeted the western part of Crimea, that is Sevastopol, as a naval base, and the entire western coast of the Crimean Peninsula, the place where there are missile positions of Bal, Iskander, Bastion, Coastal Mobile DS-300, S-400 systems, which can also fire on land, as Kharkiv's experience shows. These are at least 3 positional areas from where Russia attacks us with drones. And it is these objects, not civilian objects I emphasize, but these military objects, positions, bases, where these Russian goodies are deployed in Crimea, that were the primary targets of the Ukrainian defense forces. In the first 4 months of this year, we recorded at least 47 attacks, only, I say again, according to open source, with the same targets. At the same time, if you look at the statistics of Russian attacks in the Black Sea, in 2023, they fired at least 245 caliber missiles at all regions of Ukraine from the Black Sea Fleet ships in the occupied Crimea. Almost 1,500 Shahed-type strike drones, 62 Iskanders, 25 Onyxes, etc. And in January-April of this year, they already have few calibers, only 15, but ballistics, 40 Iskanders, Onyx, several Zircons, almost 800 Shaheds of one type, 250 Shaheds of another type. And we know that the targets were not only all regions of Ukraine. The priority targets of the Russian armed forces were Ukrainian ports. These are the Odessa region ports, in fact. These are all the Danube ports. These are all the ports of Greater Odessa. In fact, we are waiting, and our experts, including the military, are waiting. For the point is that the Russian Federation is now very actively engaged in maritime drones. We believe that it won't take long before they appear and begin to operate in the Black Sea. In this context, the greatest danger, in our opinion, is that Russian naval drones, which can carry, among other things, sea mines, will be able to covertly mine the recommended traffic routes of commercial vessels from Odessa ports in the direction of Zmyiny Island and further on as intended.
Ukraine needs to strengthen cooperation with its neighbors in the Black Sea region. NATO ships are unlikely to enter the Black Sea until the end of the war, as Ukraine's partners unfortunately are very afraid of this. They believe that if a ship is attacked in the Black Sea, the bloc will be drawn into the conflict. However, it is possible to cooperate with individual countries, establish relations with Romania, for example, and protect our Danube cluster, patrolling at least in this region. This will be very important for Romania because of their large investment in a gas production project, which aims to replace a significant amount of gas in Europe and position Romania as a leading gas producer and supplier for Europe. This should definitely be a subject of discussion at the diplomatic and political level during the NATO meeting.
Actually, the Russian Federation has no maritime borders with most of its neighbors. Here is a little history. As we remember, there were 15 republics in the Soviet Union, each of which had the right to secede from the Soviet Union. Soviet Russia did not differ in any way in its status from other republics. For example, Soviet Ukraine, Belarus, as they were called then. What is shocking is that Soviet Russia did not establish maritime borders with other states. Only after the Russian Federation ratified the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea did treaties with other states begin to appear. And modern Russia has only 3 such maritime treaties. The first was signed with Lithuania in 1997. The second agreement was with Norway in 2007. And the third, let's say, the last maritime agreement was concluded between Russia, Sweden, and Lithuania on a common meeting point in the Baltic Sea. Thus, the Russian Federation no longer has maritime delimitation agreements with any of these states. That's why these conflicts, especially in the Baltic Sea, arise. And my colleagues have mentioned that Russia behaves very brazenly and provocatively in the Baltic Sea. I'd like to say from a legal point of view that there are only 4 Soviet delimitation treaties between Finland and the Soviet Union, and neither the Soviet Union nor the modern Russian Federation have any treaties at all with Estonia. This is briefly about the issues of the maritime borders of the Russian Federation. We think it's very, very important, because the absence of such borders is a direct threat to NATO. Not only in the Baltic Sea, but we also know that the maritime spaces between the Russian Federation and Ukraine are not delimited. I'll tell you laconically about Russia's naval doctrine. My colleagues have repeatedly highlighted that the maritime security strategy of Ukraine, which my colleagues and I worked on, has not been adopted yet. And this means that Ukraine doesn't have its own strategic vision of maritime security. Accordingly, the important measures envisaged by this strategy are not taken, and we haven't achieved a sufficient level of coordination. At the same time, the Russian Federation, in particular Vladimir Putin, pays special attention to their maritime security. For Putin, naval doctrines are probably the main documents. I can prove to you why. We remember that in 2000, Putin ascended the throne, and in 2001, the first revision of the maritime doctrine was adopted. In 2014, the Crimean Peninsula was occupied, and in 2015, Putin approved the maritime doctrine of 2015 with his next decree. In 2022, a full-scale invasion of Ukraine began, and on July 31st, 2022, Putin signed another naval doctrine that reflects the political views of the Russian dictator, the aggressor state, not only on the world ocean, but on world politics in general. There, they directly call NATO and the United States of America their enemies. Russia does not hide in its documents that they establish the primacy of national law over international law. In fact, the Russian Federation officially denies the supremacy of international law over its national law.
The maritime security solution is based on 3 pillars. The first is the return of Crimea under Ukrainian control. The second pillar is Ukraine in NATO, and the third pillar is the vision of Ukraine's action strategy. In the next 10-15 years, the maritime security of Ukraine will depend on its ability to strike those who will try to violate this security. Previously, there was an understanding from the basic agreement that the inviolability of maritime borders applies. These things were controlled. For example, if the Russian Federation tried to replace carriers at the base of the Black Sea Fleet in Crimea with those carrying nuclear weapons, it was immediately submitted to the UN. However, Russia broke everything. It essentially destroyed the bilateral contractual and legal framework. More on that, please welcome Valeriy, Diplomat, UCMC Chair of the Board and Ambassador of Ukraine to the USA in 2015-2019.
The experts have mentioned the specifics of the Black Sea. The depth and the freedom of navigation, the number one issue is to ensure security. The second issue is offshore mining. Although it is not as acute as in other regions of the world, there are oil product pipelines of different types and communication cables. There may be a problem with this too. Further specificity is the inland sea. Black, Azov, Turkey's control. no matter how much the Russians want to push into the strait or canal that may be built there, they will definitely not go there. The specificity of the transition is such that if Turkey takes a firm position, it will be able to block it. So there is no way to do something without Turkey. This is an inland sea. Second, the only thing for us, Bulgarians, Romanians, Turks, is a threat that Russia may come across the sea and attack land. There is no such threat for other countries, and this is our specificity. Our specificity lies in the fact that for us the Black Sea is not just shipping, this is a place from which they attack. They have claimed recently that it is necessary to attack Odessa, to occupy Odessa. Therefore, our security is now being considered first and foremost as ensuring coastal security, coastal guard, and territory protection. So, what conclusions do I draw from this? First, we need to consolidate Ukrainian society's understanding that Crimea is a key goal for ensuring maritime security. Second, our government must realize all its previous mistakes and be confident enough. And the third, there should be really strategic documents. There should be specific doctrinal documents and appropriate plans, which will be reflected in concrete decisions. And the last thing, we present the situation quite optimistically. I believe that this issue of the Russian-Ukrainian war is essentially the key one, in which we can succeed. And there is also a vulnerability of today's Russian regime. In fact, Putin personally signed this commitment and made Crimea Russian, and a lot of Russian narratives are based on this. That is the liberation of Crimea, the establishment of justice is the key task. Further, despite the fact that we will not immediately have borders with Russia, international law provides for the forced delimitation of borders, even if one party may disagree. Delimitation of maritime borders. They are based on certain lines that are established in international law. On territorial waters, on economic zones, this can be done even if the other party does not agree. And the third point, which we have already discussed here, I do not understand why the NATO countries, Turkey, Bulgaria, Romania, do not take responsibility for the security of the Black Sea to the extent that their internal national security strategies even guarantee. Therefore, together with Turkey, Bulgaria, and Romania, Ukraine can fully balance Russia's influence here.
You've been watching a special project by Ukraine Media Center and Euro-Atlantic course dedicated to the Russian-Ukrainian war, Ukraine in Flames. In the description under this video, you can find information on how you can help Ukraine fight Russian aggression. If you find our work useful, please like and share this video. Slava Ukraini!